So I went up to see these guys this fall and was pretty much blown away by what NSPARC is doing up at Mississippi State. So excited about seeing this presentation. And I think it's got some really amazing applications for economic development. So without further ado, Mike, would you go ahead and
yeah, no doubt. Thanks. Hope everybody's doing okay tonight. My name is Mike Takino. I am a Deputy Director at the National Strategic Planning and Analysis Research Centers, NSPARC. Some of y'all may have heard of us. And we're a unit, we're a university-level research center at Mississippi State. And we have been involved in, I guess as it's called now, big data for about 10, 12 years. We focus in particular on issues related to workforce education, economic development. And just to give you a little background, Dr. Parisi, Mimo Parisi, who some of you may know, has been working and building the capacity here in Mississippi to use big data, smart data to really address economic development related issues in the state for about the last 10 years. We started in 1998 and have been on a kind of a path of sustainable growth, building partnerships here in the state. Some of what I'll present to you tonight is the result of real statewide initiatives in Mississippi that have a real particular focus on economic development and using data in a smart way to attract industry, to better link people to jobs, and just really try to use information that most states don't have linked in one spot to help decision makers in Mississippi make better decisions. So really what I'm presenting here is something that's truly a statewide initiative. NSPARC and Dr. Parisi have been key technical arms and in building this in the state over the last 10 years. And hopefully you'll find it interesting, maybe give you a little bit of a perspective, and also help you understand, as I know you guys are or emerging economic developers, help you understand a little bit about the resources available in the state that can be used to help in local and statewide initiatives. But I guess, let me see if I can advance this thing. I'm still getting a little used to the technology. Big data, not to go into details, but it's a real buzzword these days. It practically applies to anything, but it's just kind of that general idea of using, high volume, high velocity information to try to make better decisions or try to find patterns and just anything related to using data to try to target. Oftentimes this big data, the idea is almost more of kind of a more of an automated, mindless process of looking for patterns, or from a marketing perspective, trying to identify consumer patterns to better target certain kinds of products. And it has all sorts of applications, some that may be very positive, some even getting a little more shady. So big data these days carries with it kind of a level of concern. If I mention it to my parents, big data, for instance, that's something that oftentimes is not seen in a positive light. It's seen as more government tracking or NSA, and these kinds of things. So it doesn't always have a positive spin on it. At NSPARC and here in the state, we usually refer to more smart data. It's not necessarily how much data you have, and Mississippi has quite a bit that it tries to use to make good decisions, but it's also how you're using it and what purpose you're using it for. So it's really more effective when you're using it in a smart way. I'm going to switch over real quick since this software lets us be a little dynamic, and just to give you a quick sense, and some of you may have seen this before, of what the state has been up to, and just kind of the breadth of what we're doing in the state. over the last 10 years, NSPARC, along with the state, has been developing a longitudinal data system that uses de-identified unit records to try to understand program outcomes, patterns in different kinds of state-run agency programs. And over the last 10 years, this has grown to really encompass almost all state agencies in the state. Early childhood, the pre-K through 12th grade through graduation, community colleges, public universities. All of these different agencies and their programs are participators in the system to try to better understand what education and workforce outcomes actually look like. When you're not using just anecdotal information, you're using actual records to understand how groups of students are progressing through programs. And so it's called LifeTracks. It is now governed by what's called a governing board here in Mississippi that includes all data contributors that help define and direct how the system is being used in the state. And what it's really primarily used for is to try to answer important policy-related, programmatic-related questions, to assist with helping provide local economic information to help attract business and industry. Whatever the case is, there's just a wealth of information that Mississippi, with NSPARC as the technical arm, has been able to put together over time. And its culmination is called LifeTracks now, Mississippi LifeTracks. And what I wanted to do is just give you a sense, not go through the information now, but just give you a sense of what is really a part of this. Governor Bryan is a big fan of the system and is a key supporter of it. And on the governing board that's now in place are all data contributors, all partners in the system. Mr. Jay Moon is the chair, and all major agencies, all data contributors are included, including the Department of Human Services, the institutions for higher education, the community college system, Mississippi Development Authority, the Department of Health, the community college board, so there's representation from local community colleges and from the state board itself, the Department of Corrections, the Department of Employment Security, which really provides that backbone wage workforce information. The Department of Education, this actually needs to be updated. Dr. Wright is the new superintendent. The Department of Rehabilitation Services, and then of course early child care. So it's a pretty broad system that Mississippi has put together that combines both administrative information, administrative records on all of these, coming from all of these contributors, with labor market information, some of it publicly available, to try to provide the best local context for economic development information. So this is kind of the context, the overall context that has been developed in Mississippi, and at this stage, no other state has done what Mississippi has done, which is develop a system that is governed by the state that covers this kind of broad breadth in information, and it just hasn't been done in any other state. It's really a testament to what Mississippi can do and how these agencies can cooperate and interact together to try to pull together information that can be used to help Mississippi. So that's just a little bit of background on kind of that general context that we're operating in here. So big data versus smart data, I think that difference is probably pretty clear. It's really more in how you use it. And Mississippi is very focused on trying to use data smartly. So in terms of economic development, and a lot of this is probably just telling you guys what you already know, but smart data can be used to attract business and industry. It can help profile and promote local economies, so really provide that kind of that community profile of what's available. It can help, the information can help provide strategic direction, and this is really important, provide strategic direction for both localities and the state for education, workforce, and economic development, and how all of these can become better linked so that education systems and the output from those systems are helping and aligned with labor market expectations. Big data, smart data can also help better connect people to jobs. This is something we've heard as kind of this this intermediary here in Mississippi at NSPARC for years about how students coming out of universities, you know, they're Mississippians, they grew up here, they would love to go back and at least work in the state, if not work in their local communities, but they don't know about any jobs. And so they end up working out of state somewhere. You know, a good example is engineers, and we've heard this regularly from some of our economic development partners that that engineers, you know, individuals graduating away with engineering degrees, there's a gap between what businesses need and the jobs that students need, mainly because they're not communicating. The students don't realize that the jobs are here, and sometimes those businesses in Mississippi may not realize and be able to connect with students that are coming out. And so one way that this has been addressed in the state, and I'll talk about it a little bit more later, is to better connect those university students that are graduating with, in this case, engineering degrees, with engineering opportunities here in the state. And so making them more aware, and also, you know, providing this marketplace where they can actually interact and apply for these. It's a little off subject at this point, but just some of the uses of smart data here in Mississippi. I see a question, Chad. I see a question just popped up from you. Yeah, I would say yes, sure. Any data that is submitted into the system, yeah, you could put it under that smart data kind of umbrella. Absolutely. And Chad, if you want to interject anywhere, please just feel free. Okay, so in terms of data to aid economic development research and practice, data sources, this kind of thing. I just thought you guys, I know Chad had told me that, that Dr. Miller told me that you guys were working on, I'm going to have to get used to this. I saw another question pop up. Does MSU provide assistance in looking at workforce training programs? I might need a little more context for your question. I'm sure we could provide some kind of assistance. It depends on what you were looking at. But in terms of data and you know data that's available, Dr. Miller had mentioned to me that you guys were working on a research project now, so you're probably pretty in depth into data and really know your way around pretty well. But some of the data that we use and integrate into what we do here at NSPARC and what the state does come from Bureau of Labor Statistics, you know, their industrial sector and occupational employment, you know, current and projected employment, county business patterns, demographic population information from the Current Population Survey, American Community Survey, as well as the state administrative and workforce records. So the state administrative data really provides that good context on the education systems, on you know, how that similar to EMSI. Yeah, absolutely. I was telling Dr. Miller before you guys will have to excuse me when I see a question pop up. I may just jump and answer it, so I don't mean to kind of break the flow of the presentation. But yeah, the EMSI actually uses their base data comes from BLS, comes from county business patterns, and then they have some processes they go through to try to improve those local estimates. Here at NSPARC, actually, we do I don't know if it would be a similar procedure, but kind of a similar effort to better approximate local level economic and workforce information so that you can really get down to estimating as accurately as possible anyway occupations by industry at the county level. and then projecting that over the course of 5-10 years. So one of the things we do at NSPARC as part of, I guess, our smart data process, our data process is to build the best labor market data we can, the best contextual information that we can here in the state. Sorry, I got thrown out. Can they help? Sorry, Susan, I was reading your question here. Yeah, probably so. Yeah, and certainly what the current workforce training programs are and how they align to expectations. Sure, no doubt. Now, in terms of attracting business and industry, this is one of those. NSPARC is, us at NSPARC, we've been able to play a role in the state to assist with, economic development efforts, to provide information that can help economic developers profile, similar to a request for information, profile what their local area looks like, where those strengths are, especially around potential businesses that are considering siting, for instance. And there's some principal questions that we found raised over and over again, very common, key pieces of information that businesses usually need to know. And I'm sure you guys, as practitioners, know these pretty well. But always, what is that workforce composition around whatever targeted area we're talking about? How is this expected to grow over time? What's the activity on the ground? For job seekers, for local job seekers, what kind of activity is there in terms of looking for employment in certain areas? So that most businesses that are coming in or considering coming in and weighing different sites really want to understand what that local workforce profile looks like. What's happening on the ground in addition to overall trends, county level expectations over time. They also want to know just on the ground what's happening. Another key question is, well, what kind of supply is coming out in terms of highly trained, educated workers that can come and work in management positions or engineering positions, these highly trained individuals that we could, that could be drawn on. So they may not be part of the workforce now, but over the next year they could be. So how does that look? What kind of workforce training exists in the state? Mississippi, of course, has a very extensive community college system. Some of you may be part of that system that does, a lot of workforce training for businesses, designs training programs around workforce needs. So it's very, very flexible in that regard. So, that's a strength that Mississippi has, and always a key question. One area that sometimes is left out, but we found in practice here at NSPARC that is usually a key question that comes up is, what's the quality of life in the local area? If an industry is going to come in, what kind of quality of life can it expect for its workers? What kind of amenities are available? What's that general social demographic environment look like? What's the education system look like? These are key questions that tend to get raised. Data on quality of life, it can come from a lot of different sources. Never forget census data, though, because if you use census data appropriately, American Community Survey data, which really, if you're familiar with American Community Survey data, that is it's a rolling census that's done by the Census Bureau now that provides pretty up-to-date county-level information now on the local economic characteristics, median income, the population characteristics. If you look at it longitudinally, you can really see how the area is growing or declining. How poverty levels are increasing or declining. You can see over time how an area from a more of a social perspective is weathering, say, the recession that we just came through, and rebounding compared to other areas. So you can really put your local area in context, and from a quality of life perspective in that regard. Now, promoting the local economy. One of the key key areas here is being able to establish a local economic identity. So using data to really try to define what you are as an economy, as a local economy, to maybe better position yourself to go after certain business and industry, or even be ready when those opportunities come. So really getting a baseline understanding of what your local workforce looks like, and just being set up to really pursue growth opportunities. And you can also see if a community wants to be at a certain point, so they imagine themselves, or where say on a 10-year plan they would like to become a manufacturing-oriented community of some manufacturing type. Well, if you have an understanding of where you are, and you have an understanding of what that industry tends to look like, you can start getting a perspective on how you can go from point A to point B, and then getting a strategic plan together to do so. So just using data to help kind of give a local perspective on where you are. So it moves beyond just anecdotal information. Now, what I did is I put together just a couple of basic examples of how to package this information for either to establish a local economic identity, or to in this case promote yourself for a tire manufacturing opportunity, which of course that was pretty recent here in Mississippi with Yokohama. It's not just pulling the information together, but it's how you package it, how you can explain it, and really just putting together a good package to get to a business, or to be able to put on your website, or whatever the case is. So in terms of tire manufacturing, everyone knows now, I'm sure, that Yokohama is coming to the West Point area and the Golden Triangle, and this is one of the things we found at InSpark. We're kind of always learning, so we learned from you guys and have over the last 10 years on how to frame questions, on the kinds of expectations businesses tend to have, and how they think more than anything. And one of the things that we've heard regularly is the 30-60-90 set of rules. So businesses tend to look within the economy within a 30-mile area, within a 60-mile area, within a 90-mile area. So that's how we tend to think about these different areas. Usually that 60-mile area being the area most likely that individuals would travel from to go to work. And so this would be just in the West Point area, and the metro areas and other amenities that are around that area that was under consideration. Now, in terms of population trends, in this particular 60-mile region, the Golden Triangle area and the surrounding area is actually growing pretty significantly, probably at a higher rate than Mississippi or the United States. So just in terms of how the population is growing over time, pretty significant. So kind of working in that population perspective. From a employment perspective, the area has weathered the recession about, as the nation has, a little bit better than Mississippi. This is just showing over time, and this is, as you see on the citation, is Bureau of Labor Statistics data. So it's just straight from public available data at the time. It was the most recent when we pulled this together to take a look at those labor market trends, put it in some context here on how that local economy, how that employment looks over time. In this case, we were looking at tire manufacturing. So a key question is, well, how does Mississippi even fit in to the industry nationwide? So it's not just looking at the area, but it's about the context. And interestingly, if you look at the 100 hottest counties, so to speak, in terms of this kind of industry, we have one in Mississippi that pops up, so no surprise, as well as the Birmingham area and a couple of other areas that are pretty close by. So that just shows that this is an area that has this industry. It is present. It is, there are workers in the area. There's already a kind of a culture built up around this industry. So it's not necessarily breaking new ground here. Next, you're really getting into the detail of, what does that occupational profile look like? I know you guys can't read this very well, but this really provides just that overview of what in the 60-mile area, in this key region around, in this case, West Point, what does the local employment look like, and how is it expected to grow? What are those general expectations? So this is looking at occupational employment for the counties in that area. specific to that industry. So these are actually NSPARC numbers, both for the 60-mile region and Mississippi, that draw on BLS data and then go through a kind of an estimation procedure. And this is just in the kind of the micropolitan area, the Clay County area in particular. What's that expectation over time, current and future expectation, as well as what do those earnings look like in Mississippi for occupations in this industry. So it gives a good context of how of what a business coming in could expect to pay for these different positions. In addition to labor market data, and everyone knows labor market data, those are estimates, whether you're using EMSI, whether you're using NSPARC, whether you're using data straight from BLS. These are, always keep in mind, these are estimates. They are always better than a best guess, but they are estimates, and certainly any projection is based on everything we know currently and what general expectations are over the next 10 years. But again, those things can change fast. Nobody necessarily predicted a recession to come and disrupt everything. Another way to look at the local economy and to look at activity around certain types of occupations is to actually look at what job seekers are up to in the area. What kind of jobs are currently hot? What are individuals out looking for? And in this regard, this is where this the system that Mississippi has developed over time, really comes in, is using the WING system, the Department of Employment Security, programmatic system to get an understanding of what actual individuals, what the on-the-ground activity looks like in terms of job seekers, what kind of jobs they're looking, what kind of experience they have. And in this case, in occupations related to tire manufacturing, there's actually quite a bit of activity over the last year in terms of job seekers looking for employment in these areas. And that goes from your basic team assemblers down to more high skill occupations. So there is quite a bit of activity currently in individuals looking for employment. So from a business perspective, there is that would be a good sign, because you have individuals that you could draw on that are looking for jobs in the business that you bring in. In addition, I mentioned at the beginning about the community college and the public university system that are those guys, those institutions are putting out highly educated, in some cases highly trained individuals that are ready to work or can be trained pretty quickly to go into to different occupations. Oftentimes, and what other states don't tend to have access to this, readily available access to this kind of information, where you can really show that coming out of the community college system, you have 500. You can expect over the next year 537 individuals in that area, in that local area, with engineering training, engineering technician training, whatever the case is in terms of these key occupations related to tire manufacturing. From public universities, you have individuals coming out with bachelor's degrees in engineering and in more engineering technical engineering technical majors, as well as computer science, et cetera, that if there are opportunities available, these are individuals that actually reside in the local area. Their core residence is in the 60-mile area. So these are individuals that could be interested in coming back and probably would be looking for opportunities in this area should the business come. So another population to draw on. In addition, some of you may be affiliated or part of the community college system in Mississippi. One of the key things about Mississippi Community College is just the significant amount of workforce training they do, and it's something that can really be marketed, and that businesses that are both coming in and those that are already here in Mississippi draw on heavily to help train the workforce. And that's one of the components that is usually part of something like this. Part of one of these packages is being able to illustrate, look, right now we have a significant number of individuals being trained in a variety of types of manufacturing-related employment, and just in the local area. So it's pretty significant. So when all of this is really put together, that's what really provides a nice overall package, workforce package. You know, in addition to everything else that has to go on related to trying to attract or promote an area. When it comes down to looking at workforce and how one area versus another in another state can make a kind of a best case and really profile what they have locally, Mississippi has really come a long way and really outdoes, I think, every other state in the nation in terms of how they can pull this kind of information together in a real rapid response format to really provide that overall profile of the Mississippi economy in particular local areas. Now, another example I included, just to give a little context, is the process of establishing and profiling an area's economic identity. And this is something that the state and we at NSPARC here try to assist local areas with when they have that need and when we can outreach to them. And this is just one example of the Sunflower County area, Indianola, and these are essentially community profiles where you can profile what your. This sounds like the class. So I've done the research project. That's good. And it is interesting because even just using publicly available information, you can really get down, if you package it right, if you use the information that's available smartly, whether you're pulling information from EMSI or you're collecting it through other sources, to really provide that overall perspective on how the local economy looks. And so that's really what this second example does. It's less about really targeting your current economy to a specific business, but really kind of profiling what you have. In the Indianola area, in that 60-mile area, not surprisingly, the big sectors there are manufacturing, healthcare, and wholesale retail trade. So these really help define what that local area is and what their current workforce looks like. Major employer in manufacturing, major industrial sector is transportation equipment. Expected to decline over the next few years, but not really change much. The expectation is that it's pretty steady. But that's really in that overall area. That's really the key manufacturing sector. This is data free. That's interesting. I'll come back to that actually. That's an interesting point. Food manufacturing also a key manufacturing sector, and this just really provides that overall perspective across all of these different sectors, where they currently are, what those top areas are, and then how they're expected to grow over time. Interesting thing with transportation equipment, you see how well that average earnings is compared to some other sectors. And Dr. Miller, this is actually 3-digit NAICS. So these are the 3-digit sectors. And this is how, in that area, how the manufacturing distribution looks. So this is looking across all of those different manufacturing sectors. What does that concentration looks like? Of course, you can drill down and focus more on transportation equipment, where are those major areas, et cetera. This is Madison County, so you can guess what's there in Nissan. So now, in terms of healthcare and social assistance, across the nation and in Mississippi, this is just booming. It's so no surprise the expectation for growth, and you can see how social assistance looks. The expectation for growth is really high. But you may also notice that for social assistance, the average earnings is $17,000. So, something to keep in mind when you're profiling an area or when you're responding to an area's kind of request to understand what their economy looks like. You need to keep it in context of employment and earnings. because there's some pretty dramatic variation, and social assistance tends to be a high employer, but kind of but definitely a low average salary. And so concentration of healthcare employment, a lot of that is not necessarily a surprise, and big surprise that the Madison area is going to spring up again. But you can see how that distribution looks in terms of healthcare employment. And then, not to go through this just kind of ad nauseum here, but you can look at the wholesale and retail trade sector as well, which is another major area of another major economic identity of the of Indianola area, and how that looks and what the expectation is over time. And you can see that you start seeing how those concentrations look a little different because you see where those counties tend to specialize in, and so you can see how the distribution looks different across the counties in the area. Now this is cut off just a little bit, but this is expected demand. You can look at employment and occupations in a couple of different ways. This is looking at it by the education training level. So really looking at where those areas of occupational growth are within these major areas of economic identity. What can you expect in terms of growth, and what does current employment look like by education? So now you're really trying to start lining up, okay, what is the, where do we see this growth? What are those high demand occupations? And then you can move over to the education side and look, okay, well, what does the supply look like coming out? How well does the education and the workforce expectations line up? And so here, no surprise, registered nurses are expected to grow significantly in the area over time, and this is typical of what you would expect to see. These are bachelor's-related occupations in the same sectors, and on-the-job training occupations. So those requiring low levels of education, but there are economic opportunities in those occupations. So that really provides kind of I guess, an overall way of looking at. I see a question. That's information that's based on county level information, not city. City level labor market information is probably less prevalent than what you'd find at a county level. Certainly, when you're looking at occupation by industry, local level estimates like what we were just looking at here. So that's a very localized set of information that's not available just from Bureau of Labor Statistics, but has to be further estimated by lining up different sources of data. And in Mississippi, having kind of a wealth of administrative data, workforce records that help kind of fill in the gaps. But that's one approach to trying to assist local areas with defining where how their local economy looks, what the expectations are over time, and then what I didn't show you, but where you can take this another step, is to look at it in terms of how that education system can line up and help inform the economic expectations and vice versa. And so that's really about providing that strategic direction. So it's really taking that next step. You have all of this information at your fingertips. You have this nice package of how your area looks, but now how do you start really aligning the economy and the job training and the education systems? And that's where you can really use data to better link job seekers with credentialing and education programs to help prepare for those high demand occupations that are expected. So the last component that I wanted to bring up was right along these lines. How do you connect people to jobs? This switches gears just a little bit, but it's really using that same information to help get local businesses the kinds of employees that they need, and help get those that are coming out of colleges and universities and those that are just looking for employment opportunities. How do you connect them better to those employers? And in Mississippi, and really, for you economic developers, to help direct your local businesses that you have in your communities and your local job seekers that are looking for employment, Mississippi now has some resources that help address any this mismatch between what employers are looking for and what's available. If you watch the governor's State of the State speech, or listened to it on the radio or read a transcript of it, you may have seen something about Mississippi Works. This is has come out of a partnership between the Department of Employment Security, of course, Governor Bryant, and the work that Dr. Parisi here at NSPARC and the NSPARC team has done to try to provide a better marketplace, and especially an easier to access marketplace with the between employers and job seekers. It's called Mississippi Works. There's actually an app that you can download on your iPhone or your Android device that will allow you real time to see jobs available and also to go through the process of applying for them. So it allows employers to submit job orders, so to speak, or these job postings, and allows individuals to apply for them in the easiest method possible. So it really gets it right to your smartphone. Not everybody has a computer these days, and especially low-income job seekers may not have a computer, but most folks these days have a smartphone that can get them access to a wealth of information, and in particular really let them go straight to what they're seeking, which is employment. What are those job opportunities that are out there, what kind of positions are being offered, and how can I apply for them? And then once individuals have applied, an employer can easily search through these opportunities. There's also something called msgradjobs.com, and this is a partnership between universities in Mississippi and the Department of Employment Security, and with NSPARC as kind of that technical arm here to link the students that are coming out of universities, have already come out and are looking for work, or have even moved away and are always interested in an opportunity to come back to Mississippi, to link them better with employers who are looking for highly qualified workers in Mississippi. And that's a really easy system to use. I don't know if this is, we may need to see if we can copy this, because I could probably just pull it up. If you give me 1 second. So maybe for some of you guys that are full-time students, you can, I'm a sociologist, so I don't know if this will, we'll see what kind of sociology jobs, related jobs might be there. Real time, you can get these are current job listings now: office manager, business manager, program manager, that line up with McDonald's. As sociologists, we can go to work all over the place. So it looks at what your major is and how that links to different occupations. So it provides a crosswalk between zip codes, majors, and occupations to provide at least what is currently available across Mississippi. And let me see if I can go back. We can maybe let's see how teacher looks. Maybe if we say education. Now we can further define this to certain types, in this case, of education opportunities. But there's a professor and head position that's being advertised at MSU. So it's able to pick up these kinds of opportunities that may exist here in the area. And so that's for, let's see if we can go back real quick. For someone who's looking for a job now, you can also sign up to be notified about new jobs that come available, and you can really hone that down to something very specific as well as for those that would like to come to Mississippi or come back to Mississippi. You can come here and register, and as it says, you'll receive emails with open positions. So again, providing a better link between job seekers and employers to really try to get the best of both worlds. Employers get good folks to come back and work, and for those that would like to stay in Mississippi but are not aware of opportunities, they can they can better link with what those opportunities may be, and they just don't know about. So this is a way of really using smart data. All of this is data driven, using state data resources. In this case, between universities and job postings through the Department of Employment Security, to use that data in a smart way to provide an easy method of, or as easy as possible anyway, to use technology to provide an easy method for individuals and employers to interact. So just another example of how to use data smartly to help promote economic development and improve the state of Mississippi. Everything that the state has done as part of this LifeTrack system, as part of Mississippi Grad Jobs, Mississippi Works, is all designed around improving Mississippi using a data-driven approach. In this area, as I mentioned before, Mississippi is truly ahead of the curve, well ahead of other states in terms of using technology, using data and having trust and partnerships to use all of this information in a secure, in a smart way to address these kinds of questions, to provide economic profiles, and to do a variety of things that even we haven't even gotten into here. So Mississippi has a lot of exciting things going on in this regard that can assist local economic developers like you guys, I guess, are going to be moving out to do, as well as to assist the community colleges, universities, the K-12 system to evaluate programs, to better align their training and education programs, whether it's career tech, vocational education in the K-12 system, or community college or university-related programs, to better align those programs with workforce and to have workforce, economic development, and education talking and interacting in the same environment to try to improve the state. So this was really the main substance of what I wanted to talk to you guys about, to address a couple of points, to let you know what the resources are, and also to give you, I guess, from our own applied practitioner's perspective at a university, a sense of how we tend to approach these kinds of questions and issues. Dr. Miller, I'd be happy to entertain any questions or whatever you'd like to do from here. But this was the main, crux of what I wanted to talk about. How NSPARC charges for its services. What Dr. Parisi has put in place here at NSPARC has is a real partnership with the state. We're not a private business, so we don't we don't make money, so to speak, and saying EMSI or something to that effect. Of course, EMSI is a fine group, but they have more of a business perspective on requests and this kind of thing. Our charge in the state and what Dr. Parisi has set up in the state here is if we can do it, then fantastic. EMSI is raising its price. Wow. One thing to understand about the NSPARC role in the state is we're not an independent entity. We're in partnership with state agencies, and the information that we have in terms of administrative information, this kind of thing, it's not owned by NSPARC. It is owned by the data contributor, and so requests to the LifeTrack system, which is pretty much what we're talking about here, those go through they come to us, but they go through a process of review and validation. to help govern how the data that Mississippi has put together, how that data is governed. So it goes through this governing board to validate and their approve requests. Depending on what kind of assistance you're looking for, if it's more just basic labor market assistance, then that's more just how we can, that's not using administrative information. That's something that we'd be happy to discuss. What we've tried to do in Mississippi as best we can here is to provide a lot of this labor market information. It's more, we want it to be more publicly available. Currently, on the State Workforce Investment Board website, there you may have seen the citation on the couple of slides on the presentation. There is an eData portal that NSPARC has developed in partnership with the State Workforce Investment Board and the Department of Employment Security and other partners that provides some local labor market information. We're actually in the process of updating the site using some more robust re-benchmark data, some of which I presented here. That's a resource in the state. I see, Dr. Miller, if a community gets a site location consultant request for information, how might NSPARC assist? Usually what we do as in this process, we work with MDA, the Mississippi Development Authority, on how we can assist in that regard. We'd be happy to discuss how we can partner, or what kind of assistance we can provide, and just really how we'd be happy to discuss how we can how that process should run. So if that's something that we can assist you with just some basic information, or if it's something that might be more appropriate to run through MDA or the LifeTracks board, so we can help sort that out. Yeah, in some cases, students can access data, but again, that would be through that LifeTracks process, where requests for research or something of that effect, if a student's looking to do research, would need to go through that process. But usually, the best way would be just to raise a question, and then the system will decide how that needs to be processed. But absolutely, I see Susan. Yeah, always feel free to contact MDA. Always feel free to contact us, and we're kind of that technical arm. We try to we make sure that that things are routed as would be appropriate. Any other questions from you guys? We do regional reports that cross state lines. Some of the now keep in mind I guess there's a couple of ways to look at that. From a labor market perspective, occupational employment, industry employment, yeah, sure, we cross state lines. In terms of the administrative information that Mississippi uses, that's Mississippi-based. The system is very unique here in Mississippi, so it doesn't involve neighboring states or anything such as that. How fast is the answer for data? I guess it would depend on what that question was. Some things can be very some requests can be very, very straightforward and very easy to address. A research paper due March 16th. Yeah, that could be pretty fast. I think that's next week, isn't it? Other states, that's a good question. Mississippi is really out front, but I tell you, one of the challenges that Mississippi has addressed and other states face is is the trust and cooperation across different agencies. And Mississippi really has something unique that that there is a high level of data partnership across these agencies, because what they have seen is for some reason, okay, it's back. What they have seen is the benefit of cooperating and working together, whether they're an education agency or a workforce agency. The benefit of being able to address programmatic questions, policy questions, economic development questions that require the linking of data, using data smartly, so to speak. And so that's the really interesting thing about what Mississippi has been able to do, what Dr. Parisi and NSPARC have been able to do in our role, in the state, is to promote this this cooperation and trust, and it really is something unique, at least in my experience. I'm not familiar with everything that other states do, but I feel confident that in my knowledge, in saying this, that Mississippi is really the best in the nation in terms of using data in this way. In fact, that is one of the main reasons why Mississippi was awarded one of the state longitudinal system grants in the nation back in 2009 that actually allowed Mississippi to build that online data portal that I showed you guys at the beginning, the lifetracks.gov website. So because Mississippi had this demonstrated history of cooperation, data cooperation, and it really had already proved that before other states were thinking about this, that this is possible, and already put this into practice, really helped Mississippi get $11 million to build the system. Interesting findings about the workforce in Mississippi. That's a good question. I think the main thing that we've been able to identify is that there are Mississippi has a lot of workforce resources. In terms of individuals, job seekers. An interesting thing that I heard anecdotally when Yokohama executives were interested in coming to Mississippi is just kind of the amazement that they didn't see a lot of people. You look at Mississippi from the air and we're very forested, but when you start looking at actual information and actual data, you see that Mississippi has a wealth of workforce resources. We have a wealth of workforce training opportunities that, when targeted effectively, are very dynamic and can really meet the needs of business and industry, can meet the needs of job seekers needing to upgrade their skills and training. So really the interesting thing for me is that just I think all of us at NSPARC is just the wealth of information, the wealth of human resources that we have in the state that are present, and that we just need to make those links across, economic systems, education systems, to better target what we're doing. Regional partnerships. One example would be the current. If you guys are familiar with the community college systems, I can't remember what the full acronym stands for, but the TAA-CCCT grants. So these trade grants that DOL has been offering for the past few years, that what they're designed to do is to promote partnerships among community colleges to take innovative approaches to help train individuals that have been dislocated and need skill upgrades, and help them get into targeted occupational areas that are going to be in high demand regionally. And a good example is in Mississippi, a partnership between Mississippi and Louisiana currently on promoting IT occupations, and essentially designing new programs with a particular focus on upgrading skills to help individuals be on a fast track to be able to work in the IT industry. And this is a partnership between, I think it's 4 community colleges in Louisiana and I believe 7 in Mississippi, to develop and implement these programs. And NSPARC is assisting more from a kind of a data side to help manage and assist with the data process, data collection, et cetera. So there's some interesting partnerships that are that have or are emerging now that are crossing state lines around, their sector-based opportunities. You're right. I don't believe that includes the Mississippi coast. No, not Gulf Coast Community College. That's a good question. if we're gonna take it easy, I'd be surprised if we're willing to take it easy. We'll see how it comes out, though, no doubt.
Okay. Well,
I think. Go ahead, Dr. Miller.
I was just going to see if there are any other questions from the students, but anything else to say, Mike?
On my end, I'm glad, Dr. Miller, you invited us to do this. Actually, Dr. Parisi would have been on this, but we tend to run in different directions oftentimes. So if you guys have any other questions, or if there's any way we can assist, you can contact me. You can contact Dr. Parisi directly. We'd be happy to talk with you further, or give you any other additional sense about what's going on in Mississippi and what kind of opportunities are here, certainly from a data perspective. But yeah, I just really appreciate the opportunity, and also to learn about this technology, because wow, it really works well for our class.
Well, thank you, Dr. Dukino. That was good, really interesting, and I'm sure the students will play around a bit with the websites and get a little more familiar on them. I think they can be useful for the projects, and I think for the economic developers, useful for what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, great.
Well, appreciate that. I didn't have anything more to go over tonight. You guys got plenty of work to do. The final exam should be on Blackboard. I'll double check, and that's due on the 16th. 5 questions, research projects due on the 16th. And next week we have our last class. We're going to learn a bit about research methods in developing country. About 2015 someplace. And that's really all I had to go over, and then that'll be the end of this 8-week class. So you don't really get a spring break, but everything with the 8-week class is a little different. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dr. Aquino.
You bet. You guys have a good night.